welcome. This is how I got good at guitar. Hopefully you enjoyed that intro. Today, we're going to be looking at how to make simple ideas sound more complicated. If you don't know who I am, I help intermediates become more advanced players. This was me as an intermediate over here. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how to make simple ideas sound more advanced. However, with enough time and dedication on the instrument, I managed to advance my playing, and I'm pretty proud of it now, and I want to be able to share that with other people and help them advance on their guitar journey. So I've been in your shoes before. I know how to get out of them. My name is Fabian Dolan. I've had 10 years of experience on this instrument, 10,000 hours played, and many students taught. Hopefully one more today. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to join like-minded guitarists, check out the Discord. There is a link in the description. And again, if you want to start a band with me or something like that, I don't know, message me on Instagram. I've got my handle there also in the description. While you're down there, you might as well hit like and subscribe. So, step 1. We have to figure out a chord progression. So, the chord progression I used in the intro was just A minor, or A major even, to E minor. Literally just 2 chords. So, try limiting yourself to just 2 chords. Usually when we're thinking about a chord progression to play over, we're thinking, oh, we have to have 3 or 4 chords in there, and we try and overcomplicate it, right? We're going to try this exercise today, right? We're going to try and get the most that we possibly can out of a really limited amount of chords. We're going to squeeze as much juice as we can out of this fruit, okay? We're going to use 2 chords and get as much music as we can out of them, right? That way, when we get to 3 chords and we start working with 4 chords and like 5, 6 chord progressions or whatever with multiple chords, we can get more out of those chords. So when we're first starting out and learning how to progress our playing, we need to make sure that we can start small and get a lot out of a little with just 2 chords, and then we can expand from there. So today we're looking at the what I used in the intro, which was these 2 chords for the rhythm section. It's A major to E minor. Literally just 2 chords, right? And if I ask someone to play that, if I ask someone to play A major to E minor for me, they would probably go like this. Either use the open chords, or they might use their bar chord shapes, right? So we have A major here, and then we can do E minor here. We're going to look at ways to make that more interesting and less boring. So, step 2. We're going to simplify our chords by using triads. So instead of using the open chords or the bar chords, we're going to start learning how to play chords with our triad shapes. And the reason we want to do this is because playing full bar chords or the open chords, it sounds really basic. Okay, we can kind of add a bit more sophistication and make it more musical by using our triads. So, for example, in that intro, the progression that I was playing over, the track I recorded, I was using this triad right here. This is root position, A major triad. And then I go to this triad over here. And you can also use that there as well. When you start working with triads and learning more of them, you'll figure out that you actually have multiple triads of the same chord pretty much stacked on top of each other. So we have, that's all A major right here. And I'm just playing 3 notes at a time. And this sounds a lot more sophisticated when we can go between these triads rather than playing these massive shapes. So for example, I could go like this. Right? And you can already hear that I can use that to walk certain notes down. The triads are a lot more efficient for our guitar playing. They make you sound like a more professional sounding musician. So using those bar chords and the open chords, it limits how much we can spice up our progression. It kind of corners you a bit. You're cornering yourself when you're using the full bar chord shapes and the open chords. There's less that you can get out of them. With the triads, because there are less notes around, there are less fingers that we're using, we have more options to add extra stuff on top to change how it sounds. Listen to how much different this chord sounds. And by just moving one note here, my index finger, it sounds so much more different. Again, if I just do that. So we want to get used to using the triad, because that's going to allow us to spice up our playing. It also means that we can play shapes closer to each other on the fretboard. So, for example, if you only knew your E string bar chords, if you had to play A major to E minor, you'd have to go from here all the way up to here, which is a very big jump, right? However, if we learn our triads, we can go like this. Like, everything is so much closer to together, which means there's less to think about on how much we have to move. It's actually going to make it easier to play the guitar. It's going to make it less complicated once we figure this stuff out. It's going to be so much more efficient to play these shapes. So step 3. Now we're going to embellish our triads with the corresponding pentatonic scale. So the progression we had was A major. So we play this A major chord. And we add the A major pentatonic on the top. And again, for this, you're going to want to learn your 5 positions of the pentatonic scale and how to use them for both major and minor. Once we can do this, we can add them to our chords, right? So we have this shape here. And we can just switch between the A major pentatonic and the E minor pentatonic. Again, you're going to want to get comfortable with learning those 5 positions of the pentatonic. And we can make our rhythm parts a lot more fun and interesting to play with our embellishments. This is how Jimi Hendrix kind of really changed the way we play guitar, is by using all these embellishments in our playing. So we want to be able to learn how to go between triads and changing up the pentatonic scale. This is another aspect that we want to be able to add into our rhythm playing. And this is a habit that we should copy from piano players. We see a lot of piano players do this, right? Where they kind of play a chord and they do this really kind of nice run in between. And we should try and steal this from piano players. And this is a lot easier to do, to kind of jump into a scale shape if we're just using our triads. You could see if I was doing that, all my fingers are kind of locked in place, and it's less comfortable for me to go into that A major pentatonic. So if I just did this, it's a lot easier to do that with the triad shape rather than the full bar chord shape. And again, same works for the E minor as well. Again, yeah, it's so much easier to be able to do that with just the 3-note triad shapes and adding the embellishments with the pentatonic scale on top of that. It's the easiest way is playing the corresponding pentatonic for your chord. So you want to make sure that you can play A major pentatonic and the E minor pentatonic. But once you get more advanced, you can use other scales, and once you figure out how those scales relate to chords, you can use those as well. Personally, I really like using the major scale. So we can kind of get some modal harmony going on there. I'm using like a Dorian kind of sound for this E minor. And then for the A major, you can use a Mixolydian sound. So yeah, that's what you get from learning how to use other scales and how to embellish with other scales. So, step 4. Now, we're going to add some extensions onto our triads from the major scale, okay? What we're going to do, we're going to take our triad. So we went over this earlier, this root position for the A major. See how we've got our pinky finger is still free here. We can use that to add in another note. And we have the high E string is also free. There's nothing playing that. So what we can do use our pinky finger to kind of mess around and extend the chord, add another tone in there. And again, we can do this for our E minor chord as well. If we use this E minor triad over here, this is the E minor second inversion. You can hear we can kind of add those extra lines on the top of our chords. And again, experiment with walking that melody note around, like just either keep going down or keep going up. So I'll give you an example of me playing this progression where I just keep going up. Again, like a bit sloppy, not the most groundbreaking piece of music, but I'm trying to get the idea across to you of what is possible on the guitar and what you should be looking to do to be able to expand your playing is learn these triad shapes, and especially on the D and the G and the B string, because with these strings it also means we have the E string, which is completely free, and we can learn how to add all these extra notes on top of that. Right, and we can use our pinky and I guess our kind of index finger that's already barring over here to kind of go between chords and spice things up a little, right? So if you add everything together there, you should have a nice tasty vamp that you can improvise over the top of. So it gives yourself a nice kind of set of ideas that you want to be looking at when you're creating your own chord progressions. So you can kind of use these kind of ideas to play over the top of them. So what we had, to recap, we want to pretend you're also your favorite guitar player soloing over the top of this. This is quite fun. When you create a vamp and you think, I'm going to try and play like Jimi Hendrix over this chord progression. That's quite a fun like little game to play with yourself. So to recap, start with a very basic chord progression, just 2 chords, right? We're going to learn how to get the most music as we can that's possible out of just 2 chords before we start expanding and making our progressions more complicated. So learn to play these chord progressions with just basic triad shapes. Right, I'm just all using triads right there. So get comfortable with learning your triads across the neck and swap them out for your open chords and bar chords. We want to leave the open chords and bar chords behind and learn how to play with triads. And again, there are times where in music you want to be using your open chords and your bar chords, but you shouldn't be using them, and you shouldn't be using them to neglect learning your triads. You need to learn the triads as well. This is something you should be able to do. Doesn't mean that you have to use triads all the time, but you should know how to use them. This is definitely something you want to be learning how to do to advance your guitar playing. You want to be a complete guitarist. You want to be able to know how to use your triads, how to use your open chords, and how to use your bar chords, so that when the time comes, you can use the right tool for the right situation. So yeah, we want to get into the habit of using triad shapes to play chord progressions as well, to spice them up. And then once we learn how to use those triads and how to play chord progressions with the triads, we can add like subtle melody lines over the top of them, like with embellishments. Again, by using that like pentatonic scale over the top. So we have... Right, we've got these kind of things that we can add embellishments over the top of. Again, a lot very similar to how Jimi Hendrix would do it. And then once we do that, once we're comfortable with that, make the chord sound more interesting. Experiment with adding extensions. It's going to make it sound a lot more sophisticated. And in no time, you'll be writing these really tasty vamps for your band or your own like original music that you're creating. It's never been easier to create your own music nowadays with tools like Ableton or Logic or whatever DAW that you like to use. But yeah, this is a great set of kind of ideas to add to your rhythm playing in order to make them sound more complex than they actually are. You can take these really simple chords and make them sound like a maybe not like a really advanced, complicated piece of music, but it sounds very musical when you can... when you know how to kind of manipulate the chords to get exactly what you want out of them. So, this has been how I got good at guitar. If you still suck after this lesson, don't struggle alone. Book a call with me. There is a link in the description. I'm going to be making one of you an advanced guitarist. I'm going to be teaching you how to advance your playing. And I'm not stopping until you become advanced. So if you sound like a good candidate, you want to advance your playing, check out the link below in the description. And respect for making it towards the end of the video. I appreciate you. You're in the top 1% of guitarists. It's because you've got a good attention span, and I appreciate that. Click around here for another video and subscribe for more high quality guides.